They need the attentive parent who's off of his device so that he can react.
Don't be afraid of the dark. Be careful with stars. Not every light is gonna guide you, baby. Not every light is gonna guide you.
So, Dr. Kathy, today on the Celebrate Kids podcast, in this daily segment, Facing the Dark, I want to look at a hard reality, and that's that not all screen time is created equal, and not all ages are equally vulnerable to the screen time. It's a hard reality, especially when you're parenting many kids, because at some point, one of the younger kids is going to say, well, you let the older ones do this one thing. And it goes for the older ones who say, you let the younger ones do this. Screen time is a pain in the neck. And a new study that tracked 502 kids from birth through age 10 actually found some more specific things than just the usual screen time warnings that a lot of us probably have heard in our parenting. The damage in screen time actually appears to cluster around two specific age periods. Kids with higher screen exposure at age 1 and again at age 6 showed measurably weaker working memory and lower academic performance later in their years. Screen time at ages 2 and 3, by contrast, actually showed no significant association with those later outcomes. And now the researchers are super careful, Kathy, when I've read this research report, that this is an observational study. It's not proof of direct causation, but the pattern points to something that is developmentally important. Age 1 is when babies are really building language. They're also building some brain pathways. They're understanding the world. They're attaching to different people through face-to-face interaction and responsive play. Experiences that screens really can't mimic or provide. And then again at age 6, that's when working memory actually becomes an engine of formal learning. We're learning to follow instructions at that age. We're learning to hold information and repeat information at that age. We're beginning to solve problems. Both of these windows of development appear to be moments what a screen replaces may matter more than how long it runs. The broader research is shifting the conversation from how much to what and with whom instead of what. A toddler watching a nature documentary with a parent is not the same as a toddler alone with an autoplay feed that's just scrolling videos past them. The screen is the same, but the formation isn't. There's more research that's being done on this, Dr. Kathy, but I want to jump in and specifically talk about what I talked about today, these two different age periods, partly because in screens and teens, you write that screens don't simply occupy our time. They actually shape our brain and our attention. And one of the interesting things and reasons that I really like the book is because it talks about our capacity for relationship. Screens impact that. This research actually goes in and identifies age 1 as a particularly sensitive developmental window because babies are learning through face-to-face interaction and movement and caregiving that responds to them. What specifically does a baby need from a parent at that age, especially an attentive one in the first year, that really a screen, no matter how much educational concepts might be there, can't actually provide?
Oh, this is so important. Well, a screen can't love the children. Children can love a screen, I suppose. That's part of the problem. That's one of the reasons addiction is real. But they need to be loved. And it's the parent, the older sibling, the caregiver, the grandparent who is hanging out with the kid. The kid is on the adult's lap. They're sitting side by side or face to face, and there's love there. And children can feel it. They know that they're being affirmed. Kids need to be understood. And a device can't understand them. Now, somebody can program a device so that the kids feel like they're being understood, that it goes at the right speed and it's got the right number of, colors and opportunities for interaction. But no, it's the adult and hopefully it's the parent who's understanding and clapping when the kid is successful and, is touching. They need touch. The device can't touch them. Children need touch. They need affirmation. They need, correction in the right way, and they need love, understanding. And they need those reactions, like you were saying, like they need the attentive parent who's off of his device so that he can react. So that, when when your toddler, your 1-year-old does something silly, you can laugh with your 1-year-old and say, "Did that taste weird?" I mean, or whatever is going on, you know? When your kid is, sitting next to you and you're trying to read a newspaper or trying to read a magazine and they're turning the page too quickly and you interact with them, they benefit from that. So it's interaction, it's reaction, it's love, it's understanding, it's touch, it's all the human things that we crave that we're created for. And yeah, these are really, really important things to talk about. Age 1, critical year.
The other age period that they talk about is that age 6, and looking at that as a special window. What is it about age 6 that we need to be conscious of? Why is that an important period for us to take captive really what is happening with screens?
Well, I appreciate what the researchers say about working memory. I haven't thought about this in a long time, Wayne, the exact ages, but certainly working memory, a capacity for applying ideas. I think one of the things that begins to happen in that age group, age range, would be the integration of ideas. The fact that I've learned this in an English class, as an example, and now I can apply it in a health class. I remember teaching second graders, they would have been a bit older, but it was exciting when the children realized that what I had taught them, maybe even about a spelling word, they could then use that afternoon when I asked them to write a little paper about something that they had learned in a history class. So I think part of that working memory and the integration of ideas, the connections of ideas, that this is related to that and this is related to this other idea. I think those ideas become really important. I think they begin to understand that they can do things even though they're not interested in them. When they're little, it's all me, 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 me. And what's their first word? No. That's because it's all about them doing what they want. And then I think at this age is when they maybe begin to understand that they are capable of doing harder things and they're capable of doing things even if they don't want to do them. So I think that becomes important. Until then, maybe it's all if I'm motivated or not, if I'm interested or not. So I think those are the things on my mind.
I love that, Dr. Kathy. I want to jump into something that might be a little bit different. And that's that, my parents, when they were growing up, books were very readily available to them. For me, when I was growing up, I had a lot of access to books, even more so. It wasn't just going to the library, right? There was just a dynamic there. For my great grandparents, life was different. Knowledge and information actually was totally different. So I would oftentimes pull away from the world and engage with a book. And I would practice that, like pulling away from whatever I was supposed to do and entering into the world of C.S. Lewis or into the world of, J.R. Tolkien, or we would just enter into those worlds to get away from, not even necessarily to get away from, but it would definitely distract me from this world. And I would almost in some ways not interact with the world in the same way. I wonder if there's a way for us to look at this, that books my parents used to teach me lessons were really powerful. And I learned some really great lessons in that. Is there a way for parents to look at the prevalence of screens in our kids' lives and the dynamic of what's offered through them, from education, resources to videos on National Geographic that awaken them to the bigness of the world, to memorization things where they can start to learn the states and the continents and where all of that fits into geography? Is there a value for us as parents to have screens in our kids' lives in some of the ways that maybe books were valuable for me, even though it could totally pull me away from reality? It awakened me to a new reality. I live differently today because I read books. Should we as parents see some screens maybe that way for our kids? What are your thoughts on that?
We could, and you just said some screens. You're making a valid point that now, like, we can bring up a video on a device and we can actually act as if we are climbing a mountain. We have never seen the ocean with our own eyes, standing on a beach, but it is as if we have seen an ocean and even swam in it, because there's so many amazing things that apps are able to do and that, movies are able to do. So it's good, but it's still not real. I remember a story where a family was going to go to the mountains and climb, and the kid said, "I don't need to do that. I've already done that." And the dad is like, no, you haven't. And the kid is like, no, and he talked about some video that he watched. And the dad is like, oh, son, like it's not the same, And of course, the kid went with the family and discovered the dad was right, that it wasn't the same. So I think we have to be really careful of that. But that's an example, Wayne, right, that we read about in some of the research about the use of the device is important, doing it together, sitting down and, looking at videos together as a family is better than a kid isolating on an auto-click kind of a feature where they just get lost and they don't know how to interpret it. Like they don't know how big the ocean is. There's no way a kid knows how big the ocean is looking at it on a screen. Now, if a dad cared enough then to get out a map of the world to show how the ocean, how much bigger is it than the United States as an example, or, whatever might be real, I think interacting with it becomes really, really important. And it's all about balance, right? It's all about when do we do it? Who do we do it with? Why are we doing it? How often do we do it? Are we still exercising, playing, getting vitamin D, hanging out with our peers and our siblings? Are we still helping out at home? Are we still reading and memorizing scripture? So it's all about balance.
As Dr. Kathy and I talked today, it reminded me of a passage that comes out of Exodus 2, and I'll begin reading at verse 1. Now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could not hide him any longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch, and then placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along with her on the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby, and he was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered. So the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of water." The word for Jochebed, that's the mother of Moses, she did a cool act. She hid Moses in the Nile. This word hiding, it's sipan, it kind of is drawn from other parts of Scripture, especially in Proverbs and Psalms, as something that we would treasure, that's something that's of great value that we hide, where we might not hide it out of shame, but out of fierce protective love. She did not hide Moses because she was burdened by him. She hid him because she knew what he was worth. The first year of Moses' life wasn't spent in the palace. It was actually spent in his mom's arms, being nursed and cared for. She nursed him in the formative years to build into him strength so that he could go now to Pharaoh's household, where God was going to use him in a mighty and powerful way. This verse talks about something that I think is important that Dr. Kathy talks about also in Screens and Teens, that the most irreplaceable developmental experiences of our kids happen in their early years, in some face-to-face, responsive, embodied, relational contexts. What Moses had with his mother during that time period is a reality that most of us might not have read before, but it's really important. She had some specific time to train him, and we also as parents have specific time to train our kids. I hope that's an encouragement for you to take stands that screens are not going to be things that are going to raise our kids, but we're actually going to be the people that are going to raise our kids to be cognitive and cognizant of the different things that are going on in the world, that they would be attentive and present with people in real life situations. The question that I think we need to answer is not how much screens our kids should have in their first years, hour by hour, all of that. But we should really be answering the question of whose face will our kids see moment by moment? Is it going to be ours, or is it going to be somebody that's on a screen? I think that is an important question for us to answer in this moment, but also an important reality for us to live into, especially as the pressure is for our kids to engage screens more and more, and for us as parents to have more and more quote unquote peace at home because our kids are on screens when really we need to have that face-to-face time. It's desperately important. I hope that's an encouragement for you, and I hope all the things that we do here at Celebrate Kids are an encouragement for you. I'm so glad you joined us today on the Celebrate Kids podcast, this daily segment Facing the Dark. On behalf of Dr. Kathy Koch, my name is Wayne Stender. Glad you joined us today, and looking forward to seeing you here again tomorrow.